If you've been keeping up with the Cyber Monday show, then you might have heard of the idea of a Cybersecurity Advocates program. Now, what is that? We're going to talk about all of that right now. Now, what is a Cybersecurity Advocates program? Now, this is an interesting conversation because not all organizations have it. And I think that the more that you can build this out in your organization, the more effective it can be at cybersecurity as a whole. Basically, what this is you're kind of creating advocates throughout your organization, and they understand, some of the basics about cybersecurity, some of the policies, some of the things that, everyday people need to be doing to be able to increase the level of security throughout your organization. Now, they'll be doing full-time kind of their normal job, not necessarily security stuff, but in their teams, they can be your security team's advocates. They can be the ones reminding people, hey, do you have multi-factor authentication installed? Hey, are you not clicking on phishing emails? Stuff like that. They can really relay a lot of messaging for you and also report back. And we're going to talk about kind of this structure that I have in my head on how this can work. In fact, if I were to build this program from scratch, here's kind of how I would do this. I would actually start it on the in-processing phase. And we're talking about, whenever a company hires somebody completely new, that's whenever it kicks off. It's whenever they're doing their initial onboarding training. Some of the training that they'll be doing is security training. And this will apply to everybody that enters the organization. Not all of them will really, bite and want to be a part of it, but at least everybody gets that baseline level of cyber literacy. But also, the people that do choose to opt into the advocacy program, that's an option available, and you're able to kind of get that in front of them from day zero. Now, what kind of training will this be? It'll be talking about like a lot of the, just general do's and don'ts of security. Enable multi-factor authentication. Don't click on links and emails unless you know exactly who that's from and where that link is going to. And then, where do you report phishing emails to? What's the process there? What's the process if you believe that you have malware on your computer? Stuff like that, right? But this training will also be gamified. We've also talked a little bit about how security training can be kind of boring. It's not fun. It's really a video that people will hit play on, and especially in work from home, they'll just go off and go drive to Chipotle and then come back and the training's over and then they're back. But with gamified learning, it's a bit more fun. If you think about the concept of like Try Hack Me or Hack the Box, those have scoreboards. They give you points for getting correct answers and stuff like that. It's fun to be able to kind of go and do that learning. And so if you can kind of create a program like that for your security training on the inboarding process, that would be a great way to use that. Now, a part of that will be training people on the advocacy process. And it would help to be able to incentivize people in some way to be able to be a part of this program. And it doesn't exactly have to be monetary. I can already tell a lot of people, on the business side that, just making the ask is going to sound like another dollar figure that, they're going to be throwing money at and they're not going to be seeing any kind of return. That's not exactly the case. You can do non-monetary incentivization programs like, say, an extra day at PTO. That's great. Or prizes, recognition. I mean, there's so many ways that you can incentivize this. I'll leave that up to you, but you want to try to incentivize people to join this advocacy program. So that way, really you're building that network as large as you possibly can. In a perfect world, it would be everybody in your organization. However, the bigger the organization, the less likely that is going to be. And so you want to try to just really get as many people as you can. Now, people have been processed. They've taken their cybersecurity training. Maybe a few of them have joined the advocacy program. What happens next? They go to their team, and then now they are pretty much your eyes and ears, your security team's eyes and ears in that team, just kind of getting, how are people doing? Any security issues pop up lately? Maybe your SOC has some messaging that they want to get out. Hey, we've noticed a lot of phishing email or a lot of phishing cases lately, and we want, to kind of give some tips and tricks on how to not be biting on phishing emails. And then those advocates can go back to the teams and, they can kind of start sharing some of that in a personable way, not in kind of like they're not spokespeople. You're not having spokespeople across the organization. You're having advocates. And so they're going to advocate in a human way. Now, if you've seen my video about how I would build a cybersecurity staff, you can check that out right here. This would be handled by your training/public affairs person, but your threat intel shop would also have a hand on this as well. So they're out there advocating, but you want them to be able to sync up with your SOC. So let's say once monthly or once quarterly, you want to set some sort of a tempo, but once at X amount of time frame, they're going to be all meeting up with your SOC, and that's where they'll be able to voice some of the things that they're seeing on the ground. That's whenever your SOC can kind of tell them, hey, we're noticing these things. These are kind of the messaging we need you to push out. It's an information exchange. You're getting a lot of the information about the security happenings from the lowest echelon upward to the SOC, and then you get the messaging coming down from the SOC getting pushed out to your advocates throughout the rest of the organization. That is a routine thing that's going to happen, and that's going to really help kind of maintain that relationship between the SOC and the advocates, and then thus, hopefully the rest of the people throughout the organization. Now, if you've already seen my video about how I would build a cybersecurity staff, and you can check that out right here. I'm going to have a link at the end of this video, so definitely do check that out. But this would be handled and run mainly by the training and public affairs officer. However, the threat intel officer would also have a hand in this. Like I said, your advocates are going to be kind of pushing some of the things that they're seeing up to the SOC. And the threat intel officer will be able to take that and say, okay, so you're seeing a lot of phishing emails. Well, they can go and do some research on, okay, well, what kind of threat actors would we be seeing these phishing emails? Do the phishing emails that the advocates are describing match a particular threat group or campaign that we're seeing a lot? And that can kind of translate to, hey, detection, we might need to do some work on this. And then for your public affairs training officer, they will be able to craft trainings, craft messaging and stuff like that to kind of send that out to all of your advocates. Now, this sounds like a lot of work. It sounds like great. It's another meeting on people's calendar. It's more work for the people that are advocates that are signing up to just do extra work. Again, that's why you incentivize them in some way. So they're getting an extra benefit out of doing that duty. But still, it just sounds like more work. But if you think about how your employees can be a security strength, if you have, those systems in place, this is one of those systems that you can put in place to make your employees a strength for security and not a huge weakness. So it is what you put into it. If it sounds like a lot of work, I mean, it kind of is. A lot of security is work. But I mean, think about the work that happens with a breach. It really pales in comparison. So I think it would be better to just kind of over time do this just a little extra work instead of having to just do a ton of work and then deal with all the fallout that a breach creates. Now, we've mentioned 2 videos. I'll let you decide which ones you want to watch. If you want to watch my video on it, the cybersecurity team that I would notionally build, you can check that out right here at the top. And on the bottom, you can see the video on how humans can actually be a huge strength for your security posture. So check out one of those. Maybe check out both if we want to be friends. We're friends anyway. And definitely like this video and subscribe, especially if you enjoy this. If you don't, just subscribe anyway. It's harmless. See ya.